Chris Sale becomes the fastest player to reach 2,500 strikeouts, outduels Zack Wheeler, and helps the Braves salvage a game in Philadelphia. Can he help this Atlanta Braves team turn things around? We'll talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Braves, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at shortstopball. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves on X and Locked On Braves on Instagram. If you're new and watching this on YouTube, please stop what you're doing real quick, hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below. And if you're listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast, because you can get Locked On Braves anywhere that you listen to a podcast. Thank you so much for all your support here of the Locked On Braves and making us your first listen of each and every day. On today's episode, we got two games to talk about, a good one, a bad one, some bad stuff throughout with all the injuries, but try to keep it positive because Chris Sale gets the Braves back on track, helps them salvage a game in Philadelphia. I thought the offense was pretty good to really good in both games. Bullpen certainly needs some work, and we got to talk about the injuries, but the Braves do get a split of the doubleheader. They do salvage a game in Philadelphia. They get a 5-4 loss in game one and a 9-3 victory in game two. And you look at it now, the Braves have played the Phillies 6 times. They won a series at home. They lost a series on the road. And, certainly you want to win, and where the Braves are right now in the standings, they need to win as many games as possible. And you feel like you let a couple get away, or you just weren't able to complete the comeback in the case of game one of this doubleheader. But ultimately, you're 3-3 against the top team in the NL East, and I thought they played pretty well for the most part in this series, and certainly had a chance to win it. Let's start on the pitching side of things, though. We'll start with the bad before we get into Chris Sale and AJ Smith-Shawver in game one. Final line, 2 2/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 walk, 2 earned, a home run on 38 pitches. And story in this one's obviously going to be the injury. But before that, in the first 2 innings, coming back after the worst start of his career, he looked fantastic in those first 2 innings. He looked really, really good, was filling up the strike zone, looked like the AJ Smith-Shawver that we had seen for most of the month of May. But then, unfortunately, in that 3rd inning, things unraveled, and then things just turned into disaster. On the injury front, he walked Brandon Marsh with 1 out, and then he hung a 1-0 curveball to the number 9 hitter and backup catcher Rafael Marchand, who deposited into the right field seats, and it's 2-0. And with the way the Braves offense had been going, the way they went in game one, you kind of felt like it was just over at that point. They did a good job battling back. But then after the home run, Bryson Stott hits him on the heel with 96.6 miles per hour. You could tell, obviously, that didn't feel great. He tried to stay in the game, and then he gives up a deep fly ball to Trey Turner. And at that point, the trainers do come out. He was trying to battle it out to at least get through the inning. And at that time, we were all kind of thinking, okay, well, it must be something in the heel, because you could see him verbally say on the mound, I felt it pop. And you could just read his lips and say that. And at that point, you're thinking, okay, did he tear his Achilles, which wouldn't be great anyway, or either. But I found out after the game, it was actually his arm and his elbow that he felt pop, which is never what you want to hear. And he did come out of the game. A little bit of, I guess, drama in this, at least going around social media, and the fact that it was Spencer Strider that had to go down and tell the coaching staff, hey, he's not right, before they actually took him out of the game. But I think that's a little overblown. I know everybody wants to point at Snickers sleeping at the wheel here, but good on Spencer Strider for noticing it and pointing it out to the coaching staff. And they do pull him out of the game. And like I said, after the game, he immediately goes on the injured list. They're going to do some more testing. Right now, they're just calling it a strained right elbow. But again, hearing him say that he felt it pop, not ideal. And certainly you feel terrible for the person who's, worked so hard to get back to the major league level. And it felt like he was finally settling in, figuring things out. Again, I know he's coming off the rough start, but he looked really good in this one before things just kind of unraveled on him. And maybe it just was the elbow. Maybe he felt something in that Brandon Marsh walk. I don't know exactly when he felt the pop or when things just didn't feel right. And maybe it came after he got hit in the heel. I don't know, but it's just unfortunate for the young kid who worked his way back to the big leagues, had figured some things out, was looking like he was on a roll, going to be a fixture in the rotation, and reach that ceiling and that potential that we all know is there. And again, we're just speculating at this point, but as Snit said after the game, it doesn't look good. And I just really hate it for AJ Smith-Shawver and hope that it's nothing major. But right now, we're all kind of expecting the worst for AJ Smith-Shawver. As mentioned, the Rays immediately placed him on the injured list after the game and called up Michael Peterson. Bryce Elder is likely going to take his spot in the rotation the next time that the Braves need a starter. So, he was throwing the ball well before. He had an okay and a pretty solid start at AAA. But hopefully he can get back up and kind of get on a roll where he was. As far as the rest of the pitching, we'll get into the good. Chris Sale in game 2 goes 6 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, no earned, 8 strikeouts, 102 pitches. He did also hit a batter. I don't know if the Phillies take offense to every time their players get hit, but he did also hit Trey Turner in the back foot. Only 5 hard hits allowed, 89.3 mile per hour average exit velocity. So got a lot of weak contact, mainly fastball slider. Again, he only threw 1 changeup, only had 8 whiffs in this game, but 20 called strikes. So again, not a lot of swing and miss, but a lot of called strikes for the 8 strikeouts that he got, 7 whiffs on 19 swings against that slider. And because he outdueled Zack Wheeler in this one, and because the Braves offense got to Zack Wheeler, he might wind up getting pitcher of the month. Zack Wheeler was the favorite for that award coming in, but with what Chris Sale was able to do in this one and what he's done the entire month, Chris Sale might be pitcher of the month for May, which again, probably doesn't mean a lot to many of you out there, but it's just pretty interesting that this might be come down to a battle of who wins pitcher of the month. And Chris Sale outduels Zack Wheeler. And now you're looking at it, and Chris Sale has outdueled Zack Wheeler and Garrett Crochet over the past week and a half. So pretty impressive stuff there from Chris Sale, who just looks like his Cy Young self again. He also reached 2,500 strikeouts with this start. And with 2,500 strikeouts, a Cy Young, a World Series, I think he solidified himself as a Hall of Famer, especially when you consider he is the most dominant strikeout pitcher in the history of the game on a per inning basis. He became the fastest player to reach 2,500 strikeouts. I think he's in the Hall of Fame with all the accomplishments that he has. Certainly would love to see him pitch 2-3 more years, hopefully in a Braves uniform, get to that 3,000 strikeout mark, which would obviously just even more solidify himself as a Hall of Famer. But I think he's there at that point. He was really impressive. He's been outstanding for the Atlanta Braves and given them everything that they needed. I know it's a bit of a rough start, but over the past month plus, really his last 7 starts, he has been the best version of Chris Sale, and the Braves have absolutely needed it. As for the bullpen on the day, I put the blame for game 1's loss on the bullpen, and we'll get into the offense here a little bit more, but you had 2 of your best relievers each give up a run late in this one, and that cost you the game. Pierce Johnson, he leaves the curveball up to Kyle Schwarber after CJ Nitkowski had just said on the broadcast that lefties have really been hitting his curveball well this year, and you leave one up to Kyle Schwarber, who absolutely destroyed that baseball. And that was a big run, made it a 4-2 game at that point. And then Dayswell comes in, and back-to-back outings, both in Philadelphia, he just loses complete control of his pitches. And it's why I've talked about, you just really can't trust him as a closer. I still think he's fine as a setup man. He's got to obviously figure out the command issues that he's having. It's disappointing too, because he had that outing in Boston where he went through the top of the order in a 1-run game and was able to nail it down and get out of that. And I felt like that was the moment that it should have been for Dayswell to say, I can do this. I can go through the team's top of the order in a close game late. But now you saw him in a couple of tight games in Philadelphia, and he gave up a run in both of them and walked a bunch of hitters. And I guess the only positive you can take out of that is that things didn't get worse. And part of that's because Dylan Dodd, who I really wanted to see come in and get an opportunity against some of the lefties at the top of the order for the Phillies. And he comes in, bases loaded, 1 out, faces Bryson Stott, a hard batter to strike out, and he gets him to strike out. And he gets Trey Turner out there and strands those runners and keeps it just a 1-run game there. So I thought that was very impressive for Dylan Dodd, and that could be a big pickup down the road as the Braves look for some more help in the bullpen to get another lefty reliever like that. He's been outstanding. Ed Gwinnett, since that first outing of the year that he had, he's been really good against lefties. So that could be something to watch down the road. Scott Blewett, I thought, was good in this one. He came on in relief of A.J. Smith-Shawver, gave up one unearned run, was able to stretch it across 2 1/3 innings and kind of bridge that gap and keep the team in the game. So he did a good job once again. And Aaron Bummer looked maybe the best he's looked all year, maybe the best he's ever looked in a Braves uniform. He was really good in game 1 of this doubleheader. So the bullpen, game 2, I know they gave us some runs late and blowout. I don't really put much stock into any of that. But I thought in game 1, Dodd, Bummer, Blewett, all were solid, but it's 2 of your top arms. It's Pierce Johnson and Daysville Hernandez that really lost the game, giving up a pair of runs. And that's ultimately what it came down to. The offense on the day, they certainly could have done more in game 1, but it was really, really encouraging. And we'll take a look at that. And also, is this offense just going through a stretch of bad luck? What has changed for them over the last year and a half to take them from being one of the best offenses in baseball to just a middling offense in baseball? We'll take a look at that here next. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better-for-you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shell variety. It's what I keep on my shelf right behind me. It's what I keep upstairs for the kids to grab a pack when they get home from school or whatever the case may be. It's also a little bit less messy, which is great for the kids. But if you love the in-shell options, those are available as well to give you that satisfying crunch for all your Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is a complete protein providing all 9 essential amino acids. Whether you're running between meetings or dropping off the kids, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get cracking and get snacking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. Go check out the guys over at Locked On MLB. Lindsay's got the game night show running the rest of this weekend, so make sure you're subscribed to Locked On MLB, where Sully's gotten you posted every day, catching up on everything happening around Major League Baseball, and Lindsay and the guys over at MLB Game Night getting you caught up on the biggest highlights from each and every night. Now, as I mentioned, the pitching outside of Pierce Johnson and Daysville Hernandez were really good on the day for the Braves. And I thought the offense was good to great in these 2 games. Obviously, in game 1, you get to 4 runs, which is generally the magic number for this pitching staff to get a win. But they could have done more. Certainly, they had 13 hits in that one, 5 walks and 8 strikeouts. That's more often than not going to lead to a lot of runs. They were 3 for 9 with runners in scoring position. My only complaint in game 1 is that 3 of the 13 hits were for extra base hits, and they all came in the same inning. So just not being able to spread that out and do a little bit more damage with your hits and the caught stealings. And look, I have been very pro run, but you got to be good at it. And they got thrown out twice in this one. One was kind of not a consequential, and Stuart Fairchild, who, by the way, I didn't mention, he broke his pinky in this one, and we'll get to the Nick Allen stuff too and his injury. But Stuart Fairchild, broke a pinky in this one, had to come out of the game. Ronald comes in, immediately gives the team a spark with an RBI hit, a double later, and scored a run. So it would have been nice to have that guy in there from the jump. But that's my only complaints with the offense in game 1. It's just the 2 caught stealings and not doing enough damage with their hits. You got 13 hits. That's great, but not being able to do enough with those hits to either, one, get some actual stolen bases and not get thrown out against their backup catcher, but not able to, get those extra base hits that they need. And game 2, which we'll get into, they had 4 extra base hits, and 2 of them were multi-run homers. And that's really the difference, I think, in these 2 games. But again, I don't put the game 1 on the offense. They did a great job fighting back in that one after falling behind, doing a good job of tying it up and then loading the bases in the 9th inning. Obviously, the caught stealing in the 9th inning is what everybody wants to talk about with the way things that ultimately played out in that inning. And you can't always assume that everything's going to play out the same. But Ozzy gets on leadoff walk. He has walked in 4 straight games now, and he's on a really good run at the moment. Had a home run on against Zack Wheeler in game 2. So Ozzy's been fantastic, and he's heating up. Again, he goes through these big cold stretches, but he has some tremendous hot stretches as well, and he seems to be in the middle of one. But Ozzy leads off the 9th in game 2 with a walk and then tries to run and gets caught stealing. And the Braves ultimately load the bases and lead them loaded on a strike 3 call that was below the zone, but that's just the way things are going for the Atlanta Braves. Snitker said after the game that Ozzy went on his own, said that, they need to be able to steal bases against Marcell, who's not quick, and he thought that Ozzy didn't get a good jump. I don't agree with any of that. And again, I'm very supportive of Brian Snitker, have been in the past. Certainly this year, there have been some questionable managerial decisions, but that comment just really irritated me for whatever reason, because Ozzy got a good jump. You can go back and watch it. Ozzy got a good jump, and it took a perfect throw, a perfect catch, and a perfect tag to get Ozzy out there. And sometimes you just tip your cap, but I'm okay. I can't be hypocritical here and talk about how much the Braves need to run and then be upset when they do. Obviously, bad spot to get thrown out there with 1-run game in the middle of your order coming up. But again, it took a perfect catch, or took a perfect throw from Marcell, a perfect catch by Stott, and a perfect tag to get him out. Any of those 3 things go wrong, and Ozzy's in scoring position, and you have a much better chance, obviously, there of scoring, especially if the rest of the inning plays out the way that it did. So again, I hate it. I hate that you get caught stealing. It's a big moment there in the game to do so. But I'm okay with the aggressiveness. Again, they got to be better at it. But again, the one in the 9th inning, I thought they did everything right. It's just the other team did everything perfect. And again, should have scored more runs. You get 13 hits, you get 5 walks in that game. That's generally going to lead to more runs. But I thought the offense overall, just the approach, was really good in game 1. And then game 2, 9 runs on 8 hits, 8 walks, had more walks than strikeouts, had 7 strikeouts. This time, like I mentioned, they had the 4 extra base hits, and 2 of them were multi-run homers. They go 4 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Actually, I think that number needs to be updated, as they had some opportunities there in the 9th inning. Was working ahead and trying to put my notes together here. So in game 2, they actually were 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position. A couple of they had 4 2-out RBIs, which you love to see. We're going to talk about it here in a moment, the difference between the 2021 to 2023 version of this Braves team and what we've seen the last year and a half. And a lot of that is just clutch hitting. And so to see them be able to get 4 RBIs with 2 outs, big clutch hit there from Luke Williams, who had to enter the game because Nick Allen got hit on the hand and had to come out. X-rays were negative after the game, so hopefully you dodged a bullet there with Nick Allen, because you just let Orlando Arcia go, and you probably would have to look at Jonathan Orneas, who's in AAA right now, with Gwinnett, who they just traded from the Rangers. But hopefully Nick Allen is okay. He's obviously been fantastic at shortstop, and would be a big downgrade for anybody that you put out there at shortstop right now defensively. So hope Nick Allen is okay, and if he does have to miss time, that it's not a lot of time. But the offense, like I said, great in game 2, 4 for 10 with runners in scoring position, 4 2-out RBI. Overall on the day, I was really pleased with what we saw from the offense. Hopefully it's a sign of them trending in the right direction, but we've seen 2-3 game stretches for this offense before. And I know you can't put up 9 runs every game. I know you can't put up even 4 runs every game, although that feels like it should be happening more frequently for this team. And again, hopefully this is them trending in the right direction of having better at-bats. These are 2 really good pitchers they faced today, and Christopher Sanchez and Zack Wheeler. So you can do it against good pitching, which means you should be able to do it against bad pitching as well. They just haven't done that consistently. But again, hopefully this is a trend for them going in the right direction and doing so, because I was really pleased with the offensive performance on the day, even in the loss in game 1. Defense on this one, a pass ball by Sean Murphy trying to frame a pitch, potentially led to a run. There were 2 singles after that, so the run might have scored anyway, but they called it a unearned run because of that pass ball. Michael Harris, another amazing catch, potential home run robbery. I quite haven't seen the angle to see if that ball was going to get out, but either way, just an amazing catch at the wall. There were a lot of balls that were hit to deep center field today that just died. Eli White had a couple. I know Trey Turner had one. Kyle Schwarber had one. Matt Olson had one. But Michael Harris able to run that ball down, just continues to play great defense. It's why I've said before, he might be the worst hitter in baseball so far this season, but he's going to get a longer leash than most because he's so valuable defensively. So that defense overall was pretty good. Like I said, outside of the pass ball from Murphy that might have led to a run. But Michael Harris, fantastic. And Nick Allen, obviously, hope he's okay because he's given the Braves fantastic defense up the middle. Now, I wanted to highlight the Braves offense today and talk a little bit about how far they have fallen from where they were as being one of the best offenses in all of baseball to what we've seen the last couple of years, and just kind of generically look at maybe what some of the differences in those offenses. We'll do that here next. So from 2021 to 2023, and really you can go back even further than 2021, but just using those 3 years as an example, and it's not like 2023 is just an outlier. It is an outlier, but it's not like it's the only year that this Braves offense has been good over this run. So 2021 to 2023, the Braves offense was the second best in all of baseball, behind only the Dodgers in F4 at 94, which was ahead of the Astros at 92 and behind the Dodgers, who were at 98.7 over that stretch. During that same time, they were tied for third in WRC plus at 112, just a point behind the Dodgers and the Astros. They led all teams with a 787 OPS, 11 points higher than the Dodgers. They led all of baseball over that stretch by a wide margin in home runs with 789. The Dodgers were second with 698. So almost 100 more home runs from 2021 to 2023 than the second best team. Is just an absurd amount of home runs. And of course, they were first in slugging with a 460 slugging percentage. The Dodgers were next best at 442. But it wasn't just home runs. They were fourth in batting average and on base percentage. So they were getting on. Obviously, home runs help in both of those categories. And they were actually 14th in stolen bases over that stretch, but that is heavily inflated by Ronald in 2023. They led all of baseball in that stretch in hard hit percentage, barrel rate, home run to fly ball rate, and they also pulled the ball more than anyone. So they hit the ball harder than anyone, they pulled the ball more than anyone, and that's generally how you're going to get home runs. Lift, separate, pull on it. They were ranked 16th in walk rate, 13th in K rate. So again, weren't fantastic in either taking their walks or striking out. They were third in average and fourth in WRC plus with runners in scoring position. And they had the fifth lowest strikeout rate with runners in scoring position. And that's going to be a key number when we look at what this Braves team has done over the last year and a half. So during that 3-year stretch, 2021 to 2023, and again, it's not like 2023 is the only year they were good. Over that 3-year stretch, you could say they were either the second or first best offense in all of baseball. So fast forward 2024 to what we've seen now through this season in 2025. And obviously these numbers are entering the night on Thursday. That not that they would make that much of a difference in the overall numbers, but looking from last season through this season, the Braves are 18th in F4. They are 16th in WRC plus. They are 11th in OPS, 5th in home runs. So they've still been getting the home runs, although that has gone down in this season in particular, in May in particular, where they just ranked 17th in home runs coming into the day on Thursday. 10th in slugging percentage, 15th in batting average, 15th in on-base percentage, 27th in stolen bases. That is a loss of Acuña, and that element has been taken completely away. So you're hitting less home runs, you're getting fewer stolen bases, you're not scoring as much. It's not really that hard to decipher here. But this is somewhat interesting to me. They're still third in hard hit rate. They're still second in barrel percentage. They're still second in pull rate. So what they did so well to hit all those home runs, they're still doing now. And again, they're still fifth in home runs, combining 2024 with this season, even though I know that has gone down some here in the month of May for the Atlanta Braves. So they're still doing the thing that led to a bunch of home runs. They're 13th in walk rate in term 2024. So it's actually been better in that. They are 19th in strikeout rate, but that's really only a 0.5% increase in strikeout rate from the 3-year stretch to what we've seen in 2024 in 2025. So that hasn't really changed. The type of contact they've made hasn't really changed. Their walks, their strikeout totals and rates haven't really changed. So why are they having as much success? Is it really just a lack of results? Is it really just a lot of bad luck? And I know nobody wants to hear that. Why? It's really difficult. And we're kind of looking at some generalizations here in these numbers, but it's really difficult to look at the type of contact they're making, the type of at-bats they're having in terms of the walks and the strikeouts compared to when they were the best offense in baseball to what we've seen over the last year and a half. And it honestly just feels like a lack of results. But there is one key outlier. And remember, I said from 2021 to 2023, they were third in average. They were fourth in WRC plus with runners in scoring position, had the 5th lowest strikeout rate with runners in scoring position. Over the last year and a half, so 2024 through 2025, they are 26th in K rate with runners in scoring position, striking out way too much with runners in scoring position. They're 23rd in WRC plus. They're 20th in batting average with runners in scoring position. Again, it really just comes down to they're not getting it done in clutch situations. Again, they're still hitting the ball hard. They're still hitting it hard to the pool side. Their walk rates and strikeout rates are similar to where it was. They're still hitting a lot of home runs, or at least they were until the month of May this season. And now they're just 17th in home runs entering the day on Thursday. It's really just the fact that they're not coming through in clutch spots. And they obviously missed the stolen bases of Acuña. It takes out a big element of what makes them so successful. And you lose one of the best players in baseball for a year, and that's going to hurt your numbers. But you can't expect Acuña to fix everything. And while he is certainly going to help and get this offense in a much better place, again, when you just look at these numbers that I called out, the biggest difference that you see is just the results with runners in scoring position, and it's the clutch hitting. And that's why it's difficult for me to just give up on this offense, because you start coming through in those spots and you're the best offense in baseball again. And I guess that's, kind of a nod dust statement, but that's really the only big difference that we're seeing. And we can take a look at, zone contact, chase, all of that. And we will, in the weeks to come when we break down this offense fully. But if they can just get back to getting those clutch hits and those clutch at bats and having just better at bats in general with runners in scoring position, then this offense can take off. And now maybe you believe and maybe you think that the players in this lineup are just incapable of doing that. And maybe you think that these guys who have done it in the past just suddenly can't. But it's tough for me to really believe that when they've done it in the past. And maybe it's become a mental hurdle for them. I very much could buy into that they know how much they've struggled in these situations, and maybe they're putting a little bit more pressure on themselves in those spots. We talked about Marcell Ozuna the other day. As good as he has been, he has over a 30% strikeout rate this year with runners in scoring position. So again, it feels like the only thing holding this offense back from being the best offense in baseball again is just having better at bats with runners in scoring position. And like I said, maybe it's just been a mental hurdle. Maybe it's the fact that they're trying a different approach. They are being less aggressive this year, and maybe that's hurting them in those situations. Again, I don't have all the answers for exactly why they're not able to come through in the clutch anymore like they were from 2021 to 2023. But until that gets figured out, and as I said on the podcast today, until Riley and Olson and Ozuna figure that out, you're going to have a middling offense. And yeah, you're maybe going to have some games like you had on Thursday night, but they're going to lack the consistency of that 2021 to 2023 group that consistently put up 4, 5, or more runs each and every night. But just looking at the numbers, it really just comes down to not getting it done in clutch situations. And hopefully they can turn things around there and get on a roll. Some of that I do just believe is, cyclical. It does just kind of come around those running and scoring position numbers. It does generally just work itself out. It never really did last year, and it seems to continue this year. And so, like I said, I think it's become a mental thing. I do think it's an approach thing as well. But I do think that those over the course of the season, hopefully those things will even out a little bit more. Now, the Braves are getting ready to host the Boston Red Sox, and it's another team. And guess what? Coming in on a big losing streak. The Red Sox have lost 5 in a row, and they had a couple of one-run losses to the Brewers. They also lost Alex Bregman over the weekend. That's a big loss for that team and that offense, as he was having a fantastic year, and it looks like he's going to be out for a while. They're 27-31, 9.5 games back in the NL East. So they're a very similar spot still with the Atlanta Braves. A couple of tough lefties in there, and Jarren Duran and Rafael Devers. So you wonder, Dylan Dodd, does he stay around for this series? Does he get some important at-bats against those guys? Their catcher, Carlos Narvaez, is swinging a hot bat along with Duran and Devers. The pitching matchups for this one, you got Lucas Giolito versus Grant Holmes. Giolito, it's been 6 runs, 1 run, 6 runs, no earned. And obviously the Braves tagged him for those 6 runs last time they faced him, but then he went out and threw 7 shutout innings against the Orioles. In game 2, it's Walker Buehler versus Spencer Schwellenbach. Buehler, he had a couple of tough starts to begin the year, but he's been pretty solid ever since, giving up 2 earned or less in 5 of his last 6 starts. And in that other start, it was a quality outing for him. So he's been really good. And then in the finale, Crochet versus Spencer Strider. Boy, would I love to see the vintage Spencer Strider in this one going up against Garrett Crochet, but that's going to be a tough matchup for the offense. So those are your pitching matchups for the series over the weekend, where, again, biggest thing for me is, can the offense that we saw in these two games on Thursday, can that continue? Can we see that same approach, that same fight that we saw even in game 1 where they lost? You saw some fight from that offense and it carried over into game 2. Do you continue to see that back at home? What's the update on Nick Allen and AJ Smith-Shawver? Obviously, we'll keep you updated on that. If we hear anything else, me and Lindsay will be back on the postcast over the weekend. I will have another podcast for you on Friday afternoon, our weekly mailbag episode. So make sure that you join me live for that and submit your questions to be answered for that episode. But that will do it for this one. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you're new, hit the thumbs up button and leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.